Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura. And you know what's really great about the internet? Free patterns. I just came across this free pattern from Baby Lock and it's called Candy Monster Plushie. And anybody can go get this pattern and it is so cute. It is a pillow made with this fun fur and the zipper is the mouth which you're supposed to put candy in. How can you not beat that? It's perfect for Halloween. So you can just download this and I'll put a link in the description for you. And what you're going to need is some fun fur. And I've chosen yellow because, well, I happen to like yellow. Then you're going to need a couple extra pieces of fabric that are going to be for the feet, the horns, and inside of the mouth. Now, I did not find candy fabric, so I decided what would happen if I left candy in that pillow too long? I would have ants come into my pillow. So I found this great ant fabric and it's from Timeless Treasures. So that's a really cute fabric and I can put a link in the description for you too. And a bag of polyester batting stuffing so you can stuff your pillow and the little feet. Then a roll of painter's tape. Now I like to keep painter's tape in my sewing room because it is not as sticky as masking tape, but it will still hold fabric just enough for you to get to the machine. You're going to need some buttons and some fleece, of course your sewing machine needles, and I would recommend about an 80-12 because the fabric, the plushie, some of the plushie is heavy. And some fusible interfacing, your sewing machine, scissors, and well, let's get started. Now with this fusible interfacing, it's a lightweight fusible interfacing, and you are going to need 8 strips at 1 inch wide. And cut a piece that's 3 inches wide. And it is going to be the piece that will stabilize the zipper. So as long as your piece is larger than the zipper, that size is good enough. And I have 2 extra square pieces, and these are going to be used to stabilize the back of the eyes. So let's make this fun to sew with. So we're going to stabilize it before we sew it. So what you need to do is you are going to mark the size that you want on the back of the fur. So just take a marker, because this is going to be a cutting line, it's okay to use a marker, and draw the 12-inch square. So you have your 12-inch mark here. So just use the line you've previously used and draw another 12-inch block. So the line that we drew is going to be the cutting line. With the fusible strips of interfacing that you cut, you go and place these right around the square line. So you're going to do them all the way around and you're going to press them. Now we're able to cut the square out. I would not recommend using a rotary cutter because what you're going to do is you are going to cut through all of the little fibers. So what you're going to need to do is cut with a pair of scissors, and you're going to take that pair of scissors and you're going to slide it in between the layers. So you're not cutting through the fur, you're just cutting through the background of the fabric. You will be able to get right between the layers and follow your magic marker line. You're going to cut. And you see you have not cut the fibers. If you cut it just like this, you end up cutting all of those fibers off. So when you've finished cutting and you separate the fabric, you have not cut all of the little fur. Now that we have the front and the back of the pillow cut out, that has been stabilized, we need to find the nap of the fabric because that's going to determine how we want the pattern to sit. And you can tell there's a nap because that's the way the fibers want to go. And if you run your hand over the fabric, you'll be able to see the direction that it wants to go. This is not the right one. this does not go, you'll see that that's the way it wants to go. So this is the way the pillow needs to go. So this will be the top, this will be the bottom where the mouth is. So we need to mark that so we don't make a mistake. Slip it over and just mark a T on the top for both of your pieces. Now I would recommend at this point, now that you have the top established, to fuse on some pieces where the mouth and the eyes, even if you want to do the nose. So the next step we need to do is we need to add his mouth, which is the zipper. Now to find the placement of the mouth, what we need to do is find a mark in the fabric and comb the fur in one direction. And if you put a ruler, the fur will fold in another direction. And you just need to be able to hold this fur down while you're sewing. Now in order to hold it down, I use good old-fashioned painter's tape. And I'm going to put it right here. Now on the top one, I'll just add a couple of pieces just to make it a lot easier. Okay, we've made a hair part and we have an area that we're going to be able to sew in. The next thing we need to do is take the fabric that we are going to use for the inside of the mouth. And this is 8 inches by 10 inches. Take your fabric, fold it in half and press it, wrong sides together. And then along your fold line, draw a 6.5 inch by a 1/2 inch rectangle. Fold your fabric back in half, and you're going to place the fold right along that hair part. And so it's going to go right in here. And when you flip this, you are going to be able to feel that you're right on that part. So now you're going to be able to stitch right along that rectangle. And by having the tape here holding the fur out of the way, there is no problem of the fur getting in the way because it's already out of the way. So let's get this to the machine and sew along this part here. So here's my stitching line, and I did not stitch over the tape. The tape was just there, like I said, to hold the fur out of the way. Now what you need to do is cut a line in the middle of your stitching and cut right into the corner, but do not cut through the threads. So now we have the mouth opening, and when this fabric is pulled inside and is stitched together, it will form a pocket, and that will become the inside of his mouth. Remove the bottom tape and place the zipper right where you are going to want to sew it. And pin the zipper down. Turn it over and make sure it's positioned where you want it to be. Now you're going to pin the zipper onto the top piece. Check and make sure it's pinned where you want it to be. Now you will need to take this and sew it on the machine. But I would recommend that you just do a very quick, large hand stitch just to hold it in so that the pins are not in your way. So I've hand stitched the zipper on just so it's going to be easier to sew, and I've made sure all of the fur is out of the way. And I am going to just take my painter's tape and I'm just going to keep that fur out of my way. So now I'm able to take this to the sewing machine and I can sew the zipper on without any of this fur being in my way. Make sure your back is flat, bring it to the machine and sew that zipper on. Trim off your basting threads, take your tape off, and your mouth is done. Now when this back fabric is sewn together, that will be the pocket inside. So to sew this pocket together, what we're going to do is we're going to match up the edges. So you're going to sew here and then right down as close as you can get on both sides, leaving an opening here. this opening will turn the pillow right side out when you are finished. So the eyes are going to consist of a piece of felt, 2 buttons, and I'm going to put 2 more buttons on top of the other buttons and a button for his nose. Now I'm going to sew these on now because it'll be a lot easier now than when the pillow's stuffed. I'd recommend getting the sides of the pillow sewn first before you do with the top and the bottom. So you need to lay your fabric together so that the top and the top are matching. And then you are going to match up your sides. And when you match them up, you are going to take the fur and you are going to comb it inside on both sides and pin it. So match up your corner, put a pin in, and then with your finger just comb the fur inside and put another pin. And you're going to do that right to the end. So you will have this. Now take it to the machine and sew. Now if you have a walking foot with your machine, this is a perfect time to use it. But if not, by fusing both sides previously, your machine will be able to handle this. So my Baby Lock machine is a Journey, and my stitch is a regular straight stitch, and it's a 1-3. And I have just increased the stitch length to a 3.5 because you don't need the stitches really tight. A little looser will be good. So as I was sewing, I made sure that all of the fur stayed tucked inside and didn't come out. The reason I like to do the 2 sides is, well, it's done now, that side. So the only thing I need to do is put the feet and the legs on. And I am going to be able to now put my little ears in here and stitch along. So I've traced his little horn on a piece of fabric and I have stitched around. Now I'm going to trim this to 1/4 inch all the way. So when you come to a seam that has a curve in it, you need to make some little snips so that it will turn nice and easy. And by doing that, you're just going to take a pair of scissors and snip right to the seam allowance. You see how I've gone right to the threads, but I've not gone into the threads. Now you're going to cut off this little tip. Now you're going to be able to turn them both right sides and stuff them. So I have turned the horns right side out and I've stuffed them. And I just put a little row of stitching here just to hold the batting in while I work on them. From there you are just going to take them and you are going to tuck them inside into the position that you want. Then you are going to be able to pin them in place and machine stitch here the same way as by pinning and tucking the fur inside and then sewing your straight seam. And if this fusible interfacing is starting to come off, that is fine because it's only there to help stabilize the fabric while you're sewing. Now we get to put the feet on. So I have some little shoes done. How cute are these? Now if you find this is a little bit hard to work with, what you can do is put the legs in the position you want them and just stitch that seam alone and then go and do the whole bottom. So everything is tucked in and here are my little feet that are sticking out of my seam so I know I've caught them. Now I'm going to go to the machine and just as before I am going to sew my seam allowance. Seam is done. Now we can turn the pillow right side out. You're going to be able to reach in and you are going to be able to take him out. First thing you're going to do is pull out his feet because they're the biggest part. And then just slowly let the rest of the fabric come out. Oh, isn't that adorable? And there he is. Now, because we've left this mouth open, you're going to be able to stuff your pillow from inside this mouth. And then once it is stuffed, you're going to be able to just close this up in this area here. So you don't have any hand stitching on the outside. All of your turning was done inside. So we're all stuffed, and now I need to just sew up this pocket. Make yourself a little bit of a seam allowance, and you can sew this by hand or you can take it to the machine. All sewn. Now I can put the mouth back into the mouth. And there we have it. So my plushy little pillow is done. And Fun Fur really is easy and fun to work with. You just really need to stabilize the seams and just make sure all of the fur is inside the seam when you sew. After that, it really is easy. Now, I did make my pillow look a little bit more like a girl because, well, she looked a little bit more like a girl to me. And that's the bonus with being able to sew things yourself, is you can change them any way you want. You could change this pillow to have 2 arms. You could make the little hidden pocket inside the mouth a lot bigger so that you could hide perhaps more than a couple of little pieces of candy. That's the bonus of being able to sew so much. Thank you, Baby Lock, for free patterns online, and thank you for all those companies that do put free patterns online, because I do enjoy using them. Thank you for joining me today, and as always, come on back and let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.